wrong. So I was reading a great book recently, which is has made a big impact recently. The How the World is Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. I absolutely recommend it. But there's a line in it, or a paragraph in it, where one of the things she's saying is, often when we talk about women and getting more women into senior positions and getting women's voice heard, we talk about it as if we've got to change how women behave, that we've sort of the problem with lack of diversity is something women are doing wrong, so we've got to fix the women. And the point that was being made is actually sometimes it's the men that we've got to fix. And this is a roundabout way of saying, yes, women need to make their voices heard and speak up more and push themselves forward, but actually sometimes what we need is for men to kind of hold themselves back and not speak so much.
Feminists tend to argue that people that oppose feminism in the modern day are only doing so because they fear strong women. Well, I beg to differ on that front. I'm more inclined to believe that there's no need for it anymore, and in fact the new and improved version of feminism that we see today is responsible for the cancerous intersectional shit that's completely and utterly infesting Scottish policies, Scottish laws, and so on and so forth, all because of our feminist progressive guru, the demagogue Helmet Head Sturgeon. The latest excuse to continue tampering in the lives of children, teenagers and so on, and pandering all under the guise of diversity quotas and schemes. With the gender gap in Scotland's schools being revealed. Now, of course, there isn't a law out there that suggests that these sort of disparities need to be quelled immediately, and these disparities do not in any way show inequalities of any sort. But in the eyes of the feminists, that's exactly what it does show. Campaigners say the persistent dividers are due to deep-seated stereotypes, ingrained sexism, shortcomings in the education system, and even sexual harassment. Yes, the prevalent issue in primary schools and high schools is sexual harassment, as well as ingrained sexism. The imbalance must be addressed. Says who? Why does it need to be addressed? Well, it's not an imbalance in the sense of discrimination or an inequality, if you will. It's simply not enough people in one specific job role in comparison to another. Clearly showing or indicating at the very least that there's a bit of favouritism in terms of where boys are more likely to go and choose, where boys are more likely to apply for jobs in the future and what subjects they're more likely to choose, and the same for girls. But they're not happy with that, so they want to step in the way and coerce girls to take the route of the boy, and obviously to reduce the gender pay gap of the future. They're going to have to hold back boys somehow, or try to coerce them into the roles that girls previously were doing. At the current rate of change, it will be over 30 years before girls are studying physics or engineering at the same rate as boys. This reminds me of the police chief down south in England complaining it will take like 100 years to see true diversity in the police force, which is basically an excuse to discriminate against white men. This is exactly the same thing that they're alluding to. In order to make sure it doesn't take 30 years, then you're going to have to up the ante. You're going to have to speed things up, speed the process up somewhat. The data over the next 7 years shows that there's been little change in the gender gaps and higher qualifications across Scotland. Physical education, health and food technology classes have seen gender gaps decline. Gender gaps, listen to this gaff, man. Accounting has gone from being an almost gender balanced subject to one where 58% of candidates are now male. In 2018, boys made up less than 10% of students in care, childcare and child development. The data also highlights the example of difficulty in attracting girls to study science, technology, engineering and maths, despite ongoing government efforts to address the issue. And it's an issue that's been tried elsewhere, and it didn't exactly work out the way they wished it to. Why are they so obsessed with interfering? There are considerable efforts being made across Scotland at a national level within schools to tackle the gender gap within subject choice, because that is a real problem that needs desperate prioritising immediately in order to remove and eradicate the oppression poor women face on a day-to-day basis. And of course, the reason that girls ain't going into specific job titles and subject choices can't be because of choice through their own accord. Oh no, there has to be a reason. Like, there's always a reason to explain the shit that they spew out in order to justify the never-ending policies and funding, etc. And this is no different, with them going on to say that it's down to deep-rooted gender stereotypes. Oh my days, get a grip. You know, that argument falls flat on its face, because if that was the If stereotypes at young were coercing boys and girls to do specific things, then why isn't every single boy taking the same subjects in school then? Why is not every single girl taking the exact same subjects in school then? Why do they all end up doing their own thing within a range of specific subjects? Surely if there were stereotypes being implemented at a young age, all boys would go one way, all girls would go another. It doesn't happen that way though, does it? If we don't tackle deep-rooted gender stereotypes, we'll risk girls being locked out of the jobs of the future. Oh, now we're getting to the root of the problem. Girls have a tendency to pick subjects that are meaningless. In the future, they may very well be meaningless. Why didn't you just say that then? According to Engender, a feminist organisation, one of many funded by the Scottish Government, aka as in our tax money, seeking to ensure equal rights for men and women, which of course they've got, but we're not talking about equality anymore, this is all about equity. The gender divide in Scottish schools is a product of the sexism that is ingrained within our education system. It leads directly to gender segregation. Much of this gender gap can be explained by stereotyping about boys' and girls' interests and capabilities. Girls also tell us that sexual harassment stops them from choosing male-dominated subjects, and of course they're more likely to be nervous about choosing a male-dominated subject if they're coerced and brainwashed from a young age to believe that feminism is a necessary requirement for all women all across Scotland because it's such a serious issue of rampant misogyny plagues Scotland. Rich described efforts to tackle the inequality within education as small scale. The government's pay gap strategy, Fair Scotland for Women, includes schools, but the education sector is yet to commit. Close the Gap is an organisation working to tackle gender inequality in the workplace, arguing that gender gaps in school are key drivers for inequalities in later life. Are they? Studying stereotypical male subjects such as computing results in better labour market outcomes, including higher pay and improved opportunities for progression. What a load of BS, man. The opposite is true for subjects dominated by girls and young women, such as childcare, which is a sector is economically undervalued and characterised by low pay, which of course must be sexism again. Continuing professional development could help build capacity. They can reflect on the gender equality practice and include gender stereotyping and occupational segregation in teaching training. Content is a good starting point. In a bid to tackle the gender gaps, the government has instituted a 5-year STEM strategy for education and training in Scotland, aka our taxpayer money going into organisations to try and coerce girls to go into the STEM fields. A team of gender balance and equalities officers have been tasked. I mean, what a load of guff. Gender training in schools and establish a gender kit mark to share best practice in breaking down barriers, the invisible, imaginary, non-existent barriers that they proclaim exists. Ministers have also provided funding to a scheme aimed at increasing the number of men working in The boys need to be coerced into subject choices that may not necessarily lead to a good paying job in the future, but that's what needs to be done in order for females to end up with a job that will pay them well in the future. Oh my days. The government stressed that improving equity and equality across the education was a key priority. Of course it is. This includes providing a new resource to help tackle gender stereotyping and unconscious bias. Oh my god. We will build on this, including through working with the new Improving Gender Balance and Equalities team, who are taking forward a programme of work under the STEM education. The team will promote whole school approaches to tackling gendered thinking and improving equity in schools. Equity in schools, oh my god. Oh. I mean, these feminists and these intersectional far lefty closet commies, I mean, they just talk some amount of shit. And these mystery stakeholders that always seem to be in and around these plans that get published. I'm interested to know who these people are. But this is an example of the utter lunacy that they just spew out with no proof whatsoever. Employers may not consider themselves to be willingly discriminative, but stakeholders report that employers lack knowledge and understanding of how to reach and access the BAME talent pool, and there is a need to take cultural differences into account when recruiting for other jobs, because instead of just putting your job out there and promoting the fact that there's an opening for anybody to apply. We need to prioritise and change things up slightly in order to encourage BAME, because this is the shit that they do in order to justify why there's a lack of BAME applicants, when in reality it's because they're a minority. You're more likely to see less BAME applicants when there is less BAME people within said society. But oh no, let's play along with the shit that there's barriers and bias and racism and sexism and so on and so forth in order to justify relentless wave after wave of inclusive and diverse UN propaganda bullshit.